So let's talk about if you need a committee. We're just going to go work through this really fast. So I want to get to some other things later on it. So depending on how long the reunion is, you may need to break it up and get some help. This one, it's a one-day one for the Williams family. Just my wife and myself and her sister, we're kind of planning it all. And her other sister, whose daughter's wedding it is, we're not having her plan it because she's got enough to worry about. And so just a small committee for that one because it's just a short one. If there are 2 or 3 days, you want to make sure that the workload's spread out so that not one person's in charge of all the food and somebody's in charge of all the activities. That's just too much. But if you farm that out so that you have a lot of people involved and a lot of people helping, it makes it much more enjoyable so everybody enjoys it, especially the person that's in charge. Sometimes if they're working too hard, they don't enjoy it and they don't want to do it again. And so you want to make it sure it's fun for everybody. So farm it out. Family members are often willing to help, and you can just divide up the tasks based on, you can say you be in charge of the program, and you be in charge of these meals, and you be in charge of, making sure that everybody knows about it and communicating it, doing up the invitation, stuff like that. And that really helps. The other thing that happens when you have a lot of people helping is they buy into it more. They want to be there and they're not going to miss it, so they're more likely to attend. Okay, on the cost, there's different ways to do the cost. I just want to mention some of the ways that we've seen happen. When it was my children and grandchildren, we paid for most of it, and then we had some of the activities that we had some of the kids help pitch in. So they had buy-in again, so they were party to it. And then we also have with my grandparents' descendants, we've got those 5 brothers, and we've had it some years where those 5 brothers pay for all of their descendants. If it's an inexpensive one. If it's an expensive family reunion, then it often falls to the next level, next generation down, that they all pay for their family share. So kind of look at it, depending on your family. You want to look at the different ways. There's lots of different ways to do it. And then if they pay in advance, it's a lot easier to get the money. They're a lot more anxious to give you the money. After the fact, they're less anxious to give you the money. It just takes a little while longer to get them to pay it. It's not that they don't want to pay it, it's just that there's no deadline. There's no deadline anymore to get them. I just wanted to go over some tips and then have you tell me some other tips that you've got. So make sure that you don't overschedule. There's a temptation to say, we want to have a lot of things for them to do because that's what they want to come do, or they want to come and do all these activities. Absolutely, you want to have some things for them to do that draw them in. But if you overschedule it, you miss out on again, my opinion, the gravy of the reunion, and that is the visiting time. And also people get tired and then you run into more problems because moving 100 people from one location to another location isn't as easy as moving 4 or 5 people from one location to another. It takes lots longer to get them from one place to another, and so you have to plan some of that buffer time in there. So be careful not to overschedule. And then we already mentioned having activities for different age groups. Brainstorm with the family for ideas. One of the benefits of this is not only you get more ideas, but again you get more buy-in. People say, oh yeah, this is going to be a fun reunion. I want to be part of that. And so then they plan on it because they made some suggestions. Even if their suggestions weren't taken, that they are now part of the committee and they're part of planning that family reunion, so they're definitely going to be there, or most likely going to be there. So brainstorming ideas, plus you get the benefit of getting some new ideas that you hadn't thought of yourself. And you don't have the pressure of trying to come up with something that everybody's interested in. I mentioned this one already, that planning the date for the next reunion by the end of that reunion. So if you've got a repetitive family reunion every year or every other year, if you have the date set already, then everybody knows, they can put it on their calendar. And even if you have to move it, we've had, there was one time where we had to move the date because that date ended up not working for the activity that we had planned. And so, but even if you have to move it, it was still done way in advance so that it was easy to get everybody on their schedule. Have a large wall chart to show how everybody is related. That's, again, this is for one where you're talking about second or third or fourth cousins. It's nice to have one where you can see, how you fit in and where you fit in, because as you're visiting with somebody new, it's nice to have a chart you can actually see and track it. One of the gathering activities we had at this my grandparents' family reunion a few years ago was we had made this large tree out of paper that we put on the wall. It was just a bare tree, and then we cut out about this size leaves out of colored paper. We had everybody write their name on it, and then we had them stand and tell us their name, how they fit into the family, and what their age was. And then they'd come put up their leaf on the tree, on the branch that was, we had the 5 brothers, so we had 5 branches. And so they put it on there, and that stayed up on the wall the whole reunion, and so everybody could look at it and they could see how they kind of fit in. Sharing and recording family stories. This has been something that we've really enjoyed with our family, is we always have story time, and I always bring a video camera and I record those. Some of those stories, are stories that we've heard over and over again. They're old family favorites, but some of them are new. And by recording them, then you've got them. And what I did is I videoed them, and even though the quality of the video was poor, the audio was fine, and I just put them on YouTube, and we put them on so that they're not public, but only on a shared link so that just those in the family could look at them. And so I just put them on YouTube, and then everybody has those stories and they have access to them. They can watch them anytime they want. But story time, I think, is just a wonderful part of a program to do that. And then in the large families, name tags are just a must. You've got to have name tags. If you can color code the name tags, that's even better. We've done it that way before, where each branch of the family has a different color. We've done it with the Richards family reunion. Again, this is 7th and 8th generations from the ancestor on the Richards line. So we have, all these different lines, and so we have different colored name tags depending on which great-grandfather you come from. Making a family directory. This has been helpful. Again, this is helpful for the family that's you're talking 3rd or 4th cousins, so we're talking maybe 5 or 6 generations. My grandparents' descendants, we do a directory every reunion, and we update it. I've got an uncle who takes that on every time, and he gets everybody's current address and phone number and email and who's been born since then and what their birthdays are.
That's a big job.
It is a big job, but he loves to do it, and so every 2 years he does that. And so I think it's a great idea. Something we really enjoy because we just put that with our other directory. And occasionally you need to have the phone number, or address, or email for one of your 2nd or 3rd cousins. And so it's really handy. Print and distribute a family history. I mean, we've talked about this as we've talked about the family history classes. Often publishing the family history is one of those deadlines is to get it in time for the reunion, so you can distribute it during the family reunion. That can be the theme that you do for your family reunion, where you have that history, and that's kind of the focal point where you share parts of the history as part of that family reunion. Family recipe books. Those are kind of fun to do. Some families, that's really a big part of their family, is those family recipes. Especially if you've got some ancestor recipes that have either been handed down or that were, part of the memory that people have of their ancestor, their grandma or their great-grandma. And something that they made that was really special, and to be able to hand that recipe down. And the recipe book doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to include every recipe that everybody in the family likes. It can be just a small recipe book that just includes, Grandma Joan's favorite recipes, and you have maybe 10 or 20 recipes in that. And so it's just a little booklet, but that can be kind of fun. Picking a theme. Having a theme for your family reunion will really help. It helps to keep people focused. It also helps you to have some ideas of activities that match the theme. So the theme for our Stevenson family reunion that's coming up is called Connect the Dots. And so that's the theme, and the idea is that we're connecting the generations of people. And so we're connecting the generations not only vertically but horizontally, people with their cousins. So we're connecting the dots. Have alternate plans in place. No family reunion I've ever been to has all gone off exactly as planned. It just isn't going to happen. There's too many possibilities for problems. I mean, you talked about the wind blowing your chart down, I mean, you've got weather issues, you've got health issues. So you have to have some alternate plans. What are you going to do if? And you can't plan for everything. I mean, you couldn't plan for this heart attack thing, but you plan for as many alternates as you can. So if you have an activity that's outside, you need to plan something in case the weather's bad. Or if you have an activity where it's necessary for you to have this certain amount of space, and for some reason you get there and there's a soccer game there and they've got it scheduled and somebody's double booked it, have in mind another place that will give you that same amount of space that's nearby. So just having alternate plans really help. And then roll with the punches. Don't get irritated by the fact that it's not going to be run perfectly, because there just isn't a possibility with a family reunion of having everything go off perfectly. And everybody's going to be okay with that. Another tip is to take lots of pictures. Make sure that you assign somebody, unless you want to do it yourself, assign somebody to carry a camera around or a video camera around and go and take lots of pictures. And make sure to give them an assignment to make sure they take at least 1 or 2 or 3 pictures of everybody, so that everybody's included in those pictures, and then share those pictures after the reunion. That's something that we've enjoyed doing, is sharing those pictures with everybody after the reunion so they have access to them. Another thing you can do is to print those pictures out, at least the good pictures, and put them in an album or a binder of some kind, and then bring those to the next reunions and have those on a table. People love to go look through those old pictures, and they love to see the reunion that they had last time or the reunion that we had 10 years ago, and look at themselves and go, oh yeah, I remember we did that. Oh, I remember we did that. And then make sure you have some cleanup crews planned and ready to go. Everyone's going to be tired at that time, and if you're in charge, you're especially going to be tired because of all the stress that you've had to deal with. Because stress really does wear you out. Your adrenaline gets going, and it wears you out. You're going to be extremely tired at the end, and if you don't have another cleanup crew planned and ready to jump in there, then you're going to end up doing that, and it's going to spoil the reunion for you. So